let's get started. There's a very popular saying, the bitterest truth is better than the sweetest lie. Unfortunately, startup founders are often deprived of that bitter truth or criticism. They get sugar-coated BS from their prospects instead of purchase order or funding. And we at Ethom are set to change that. That's the reason we host these roast sessions where founders get to answer difficult questions and learn from the brutal, unfiltered feedback from the subject matter experts. And all of that is done on live stream to make founders comfortable with the unknowns. Today, we have Vinitha, CEO and founder of PerceiveNow, on the hot seat, who is going to be roasted constructively by a diverse panel. Before getting into the roasting session, I will request our panelists to introduce themselves. If I may request Fabrizio to go first. Fabrizio, please, a quick intro.
Thank you very much, Pankaj. Hi, Vinitha. Hi, my fellow panelists. It's a pleasure to be here. Thanks for the invitation. I was until recently Chief Product Officer at Bland Chocolate, UK's leading venture builder. So we were working on dozens of ideas every year and creating startups and scale-ups. So I'm really looking forward to this. I love to see what founders come up with and how they're thinking about their product and how they're thinking about solving the problem that they're proposing to solve in the market.
Appreciate your presence, Fabrizio. Thanks a lot for joining us today. Nandita, may I request you to do a quick intro, please?
Sure. Hello, Pankaj. Hello, Vinitha. Hello, team. I feel privileged to be here. And about me, I'm AI product manager, and I have around 7 to 18 years of experience. And right now we have been building AI and data solutions, putting a layer of AI on top of AI. IoT industry is also reimagining workflow, working on cutting edge technology, Gen AI, Agentic AI. Also, we are aware that what are the loopholes, and most of the products just are the AI wrappers. So looking forward to explore what Vinitha and team has put together. Use cases interesting. Let's see how are they putting together everything. So excited to be here.
Fantastic. You. Thanks a lot, Nandita. Appreciate your presence today. May I request Ramila to go next, please?
Yes, sure. Hi everyone. Hi, Vinitha. Thanks for the invitation. I'm Ramila Peiris. I'm leading the data management and AI initiatives in Sanofi within the MSAT organization.
Thank you. Thanks a lot, Ramila. Lokesh, could you please go next?
Yeah. Can you hear me, guys?
Yes, please. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Hey, everyone. Thank you so much, Pankaj and Vinitha, for inviting me to this discussion. I lead Gen AI practice at Latent View, which is a consulting company in the data analytics AI space. I've been in the AI space, in the product space for over 15 years. And really excited about this discussion. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks a lot, Lokesh. Appreciate your time today. Abhay, may I request you to do a quick intro, please?
Sure. Thanks, Pankaj. Hey, everyone. Hi, Vinitha. Good to see you all. Sorry, I've not been able to switch on my camera, but quick introduction from my side. I've been a generalist. For the better part of a decade, I've been heading corporate innovation functions and strategy roles for companies like Target, Anheuser-Busch InBev, Lowe's, TVS Motor Company, and group companies. I also run my own syndicate, through which I invest more often than not in deep tech or emerging tech startups. I've invested in about 34 startups in my personal capacity now. So looking forward to this conversation and roasting Vinitha to the best of our capability in a constructive way, to add that as well.
Thank you. Thanks, Abhay. Yes, in a very constructive way. Fantastic, Abhay. Really appreciate your time today. Again, all the panelists really appreciate your time. Please do not hold back. Do not hesitate. I'm sure Vinitha is fully ready with her answers and an ice bucket. I'm sure you are going to enjoy this session thoroughly. Vinitha, may I request you to do a quick intro and then dive into the PerceiveNow product demo and presentation, please?
Absolutely. Okay. Hello, everyone, again. Thank you so much. This was a very exciting event for me. I've never done something like this before. So really looking forward to it. And to start with, my background is a PhD in electrical and computer science engineering from University of Cincinnati. I started being a startup entrepreneur and a founder while I was a grad student. It's been 5 years in the journey, building PerceiveNow and creating an absolutely revolutionary piece of technology. So I'll just dive right into the probably the product and then go to the deck and then go from there. I'll share my.
Fantastic.
Pankaj, you may need to give me permission to share.
You should be able to share. You're also the co-host.
Okay, yes. All right, so wanted to start with the product with an intention of actually running through the user's experience and then directly diving into competitive differentiation or GTM and scaling from the deck perspective. So in the process of developing PerceiveNow, what we've developed today is a suite of, I should say, different suites of AI agents that can automate the end-to-end process of developing and creating market, technology, or patent-related reports. So these use cases are far and wide, industry agnostic, and can pretty much take on specific use cases that are super related to strategy all the way till being extremely technical from an R&D perspective, etc. So this is our product, and the three flagship suite of agents that we have are first related to investors, all related to company due diligence, fundraising strategy, or portfolio support. Then we have from the enterprises bucket related to market strategy, product and engineering, technology and R&D, marketing and sales, finance, report on anything. For the lack of a better word, is one of the most popular agent where users have become extremely creative. And then, of course, we have all the agents related to IP. I'll pick one of them and probably show a quick demo. So the initial process works where our users start by interacting with our agents and providing a very specific set of requirements they have. Now, the requirement may also be that I don't even know what I want, which is a great place to start. But if they do know, then they can start by providing whatever is that they have currently access to. I'll just take an example, and this is a live demo, so please feel free to chime in at any point and tell me if you guys have a use case that you would like me to try to. But I'll probably start with one of the biological companies that we worked with. So let's say I want to understand the competitive landscape and brand positioning among all the mRNA vaccine companies and the current impact of geopolitical factors them. So this is just a very simple objective. We've seen users write an entire novel when it comes to these type of information and prompt. And of course, the model always responds depending on the type of objectives provided. There are usually about 5 to 6 different steps. Yes.
Sorry to interrupt. I have a question. So here, these AI agents, so I saw that you have created multiple of them. So first question is, how much time did it take to actually create all these agents? Second thing, see, this is a matter of having that data source. And if you have that data source, anyone, like especially, for example, your McKinsey's of the world and all these who are into strategy and market size and everything, like we also use those reports. They have all the data already curated already at one place. They have the experts, for strategy experts. Creating agents is a matter of creating a prompt and having the set of instructions coming from the experts. They have the experts also. What do you think is your moat? What will, how will you compete with them? That they decide to do, and they already might be doing it also. They might have done already also. I will not be surprised. Why? Because they have everything already. So
Yes.
what is your plan? And how do you plan to differentiate yourself and keep a place for yourself in this market?
Absolutely. So I'll go through the questions one by one. So first, starting with the sustainable competitive mode and why aren't McKinsey's of the world already doing it? You're absolutely right. I think between McKinsey, BCG, and all the other smaller scale consulting firms, they've to our knowledge have invested somewhere between 10 to 15 billion dollars in developing their own AI agents and creating their own suite of AI powered analysis, for the lack of a better word, more than even agents. First of all, for us to develop these set of agents and whatever you just see, even within these chat, for example, is made up of anywhere between 8 to 10 different models that are fine tuned over 4 to 5 years at this point. And we, of course, continued doing them. Second of all, data access. First of all, proprietary data sets that we have exclusive access to between 10 to 15 different data licensed partners is a separate thing that goes into why our agents and the data that they provide is going to be very different. But second of all, it also comes down to how we have curated our own proprietary data sets between different industry verticals and have worked with these set of, as you just mentioned, experts who practically give us the data, the importance of the curated data, and point to us what data really meant, what data really means, to what impact or to what capacity from the user standpoint. So these two are already taken care of from the competitive differentiation perspective. Now, the third thing is they are still market leaders. And as all our mentors and every single fundraising, investor that I speak with, if at any given point, starting with consulting firms like McKinsey or till Sam Altman decide that they're just going to turn their heads towards creating reports, why can't they just spend all that money and you become obsolete? That is the most important valid question there. So the first answer to that is that we have our proprietary patented technology, and we are not looking at creating or even competing with bigger fishes that they are trying to fry. Second of all, when it comes to sustainable competitive moat, whatever right now, McKinsey, when we went to them and said that this is what we have, they said, you look like a competitor and I do not want to use it. And this was about 8 months ago. And then later on, maybe around 2 months ago or so, the same McKinsey came and said, we want to see how your agents work differently than what we are developing so we can acquire you. So there's no question that at some point down the line, 2 or 3 years, we don't know when, maybe lesser, that is going to be a very important acquisition target for us. But we're not trying to diminish the importance of our sustained competitive advantage. And that's where our proprietary patent technology and the algorithms that we own.
Just one more quick question, and then I will leave the floor for others and also for you to finish your pitch. I don't want to take too much time, but you mentioned
Yes.
about the models which you have been fine-tuning from 4 to 5 years, right?
Yes.
So for these agents, which are the models? Like, are you using machine learning models or you're using LLM-based, SLM-based models? Exactly what kind of models are they?
So these are a combination of about 8 to 10 different large language models and small language models. GPTs have existed since about 20 years or so. I think it became popular after OpenAI, of course. And all the smaller models that's related to, I think, machine learning, just completely related to predictive analytics, became obsolete after LLMs can handle much larger computational power. So we don't really use them anymore, but we used to use them at
NLP
one.
based ones. So how, it is not difficult. It is not possible to fine tune LLMs at this point of time until you have that strong use case, because I guess your use case is more related to just fetching the context from multiple data sources,
So,
combining them and having some set of instructions.
yeah,
So
so I
fine
think
tuning LLM is not relevant. Fine tuning small language models, well, because we are working with small language models, so I know that they are depends on what size of model you are using, of course. So I leave it up to you to just tell me in one line what is the model size of small language model, so it will give us fairly good idea about how intelligent it will be in curating an answer on top of the fetched context, and then I'll close for now.
yes, so the one line answer is that creating a hallucination free, 100% hallucination free, contextually relevant prompt engineering process is our proprietary algorithm, and it is not fine tuning. Fine tuning does not even come into picture here. That is our patent. So yes.
Exactly. So actually, in your earlier statement, you were saying you're fine-tuning models from 4 or 5 years. So I was surprised totally that it's not possible for this use case and neither needed nor possible. It's $1 billion affair,
That
not
is
relevant for this use case at
did.
all.
No, you're right. We don't actually need it. But the fact is that if somebody wants to replicate it, they're definitely going to have to go through that whole set of process. Can they do it faster than we did? Of course they can. They can even do it in 1 month. So that is not even a proprietary algorithm that comes into picture there. It is the orchestration. And I give this famous example to everybody that I speak with. If you were to consider all the LLMs and SLMs as, say, expert musicians who are solo experts in their own instruments and their own
I agree with the orchestration part. Yes,
and
because the
orchestration
expertise.
are
Oh,
proprietary.
Exactly.
I agree with the orchestration part. Yes.
May I request Fabrizio to...
Go ahead.
Yes.
Sorry, I'm just conscious that we've been about 15 minutes in and
Yeah.
we've seen about a minute of Vinitha's presentation. So I just want to understand if there's more to the product than what is being shown so far, because otherwise we might be missing.
Okay, so I can
Okay.
just switch to the deck right away, which is much easier to showcase from a competitive differentiation and
Sure.
all the other aspects. And I'm going to skip all the parts related to our real life use cases with PNGs of the world, and then directly just go into competitive differentiation because we're just talking about this. So at the end of the day, when we are talking about all the existing LLMs or even the consulting firms who are practically
Vinitha?
taking all of these. Yes.
You're still showing the product.
Oh.
Yeah. Please switch to the presentation.
I didn't realize. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Yes. So I will just skip towards the, I'm going to skip the problem statement and of course the real life case studies, which is with our current customers from P&G and Henkel and all the other enterprises, and go into competitive differentiation because this is the most important part. At the end of the day, when it comes to looking at a report, let's just say from a user standpoint, when a McKinsey consultant gives them a report, the trust is on the consultant and the brand where it comes from. So the first question is, how do you make sure the data is trustworthy? How is it reliable? What are the options of hallucinations and all those contextual relevance that needs to go into picture? So the orchestration layer and prompt engineering part being one of the most important proprietary part that we are patenting. Beyond that, for a single agent to go through the entire process end to end, there is about 25 different factual validation that happens. So when we're comparing it with single LLM based models, which can provide you all the ingredients, then basically what happens with PerceiveNow is clearly the final product that the users would like to consume right away, rather than looking at all these ingredients that they need to stitch together. Most important differentiations actually right here. When it comes to statistical rigor, mathematical and logical explanation, decision readiness, data traceability, and most importantly, the auditable and the audit trail of the different aspects that went into creating a 60-page report with graphs and visualizations and charts is an extremely important and popular, also a unique feature that we developed as a part of the proprietary technology. Then at the end of the day, I just want to say from a technology standpoint, these are just 7 stages between the 24 different structural layers that we have, which like Nandita was just pointing out, is extremely an important process that every single consulting firm, marketing firm, and everybody's trying to replicate right now. The most important advantage is that we're not a company that mushroomed right after OpenAI came into picture and have been perfecting this process since a very long time. Secondly, from a proprietary data standpoint, including our licensed data partners, the most important thing that we want to point out here is users no longer are asking us, are you using proprietary data? They're asking us, why should I trust that 45% of my customers are not going to like me in the next 6 months? What is your reasoning behind that? What is the logic that went into being able to create that strategy and recommendation? So we've not really seen anybody even have a problem with where the data is coming from, and nobody's even questioning that part. I don't have to talk about the market size and the unlimited potential from a scaling standpoint, given that this is a very, very important part of market research and market intelligence reports and industry agnostic. But having said that, healthcare and CPG is still the first set of companies we are doing our outreach from a GTM standpoint, purely based on my own background in biomedical engineering and my network in the presence, and of course the CPG companies that we're already working with. This is our SaaS business model. I think this is pretty straightforward, that we work with different industries based on the number of agents, the type of reports, and the amount of data or type of data that they are willing to use. GTM, which is in fact the most important aspect that we've seen a lot of our energy and efforts go into. Primarily, I can keep saying that if I had $10 million and the visibility and virality that we can create, I would like to boil the ocean and conquer every single industry vertical that is out there and every single bucket of customer personas. But the reality or the truth is that currently we have customers in many different buckets, which I'll show in just a minute. But at the end of the day, we wanted to have a very targeted approach to go after healthcare and CPG companies and create a very highly personalized network and ecosystem of users within these two industry verticals. So that is going to be our GTM strategy. And from a scaling standpoint and product roadmap, we are trying to merge that entire process within the next 1 or 2 years, because right now the amount of money that's being spent in consulting firms to develop these versus what we have already ready is a huge first entrant advantage for us. This is our current traction with different types of customers, including companies like NVIDIA and Boeing, who are currently in the pipeline through personal contact and introductions. But most importantly, I want to show the diversified set of customers we work with. We have customers in consulting and marketing firms, enterprises, investors, and private equity firms, tech transfer offices, and there is about 5 other branches, which I couldn't really fit in the slide. But what it really proved to us at the initial stage is the diversity and the product market fit as a need in all of these different areas. But at the end of the day, from an outbound sales perspective, we are being as careful and curated and specific as possible, as I just mentioned. So I guess that is actually, yes.
Let's take the question from Ramila. Please,
Yes.
Ramila.
I'll let you complete. Are you done?
No, please go ahead. It's okay.
Because I wanted to give you the full opportunity to go through the full
No, go ahead.
Wait, so you talk about the 7 stages. So I'm very interested in let's, if you don't mind, go back to this slide.
Sure.
Right. So in terms of scaling, how much time that you spend on each stages?
So this is the 7 stages of report generation process. And if you're asking how much do we spend on making changes in the product to be able to change to other industry verticals, extremely, maybe, about 5 to 10%, or maybe even lesser, because currently our product can take care of all the industry verticals already. But we did not want to do that only from a commercial engine standpoint. They are fine-tuned with about 1,000 million plus data points and are capable of handling different industry verticals. So, yeah.
So data collection and data structuring, right? So
Yes.
from what I find is this is for me, this is the most difficult aspect when it's come to scaling into a new company, new facility. For instance, if you want to work with Sanofi, I think I would like to know, what is that, effort that it will take.
Sure.
It's not definitely not going to be plug and play, right? It's going to
Sure.
be some level of data mapping, data structuring, right? So, what is the difficulty? Do you see like a roadblock with your experience with PNG and other companies, or is it
So,
seamless?
no, so I will tell you the answer I'll tell you the stages where the issues come in and the efforts that go into making that possible too, right? Yeah, we have made it seamless with our enterprise integrations that we have, be it within the OneDrive, Google, or CRMs, etc. So that's not an issue. But where the problem does come is when we are trying to combine their internal set of data for periodic report automation process. and the process that we have to do with external scraping of the data so that they can actually combine that and create a final report which just keeps automating again and again. So from an enterprise integration standpoint, it's easier. But as you just mentioned, from a data mapping process, the first step that we always do, if it is not already structured through an ETL process in their database, be it in Azure Cloud or in GCP, we take all the data in their raw document format. It could be an Excel sheet, it could be a Word document, it could be a PDF, it could be a presentation. That is the biggest advantage they have when models come into picture, because they can digest the data in any format. Now, then comes the process related to fine-tuning the entire reporting process. If we are assuming PerceiveNow as a black box, the input being data, output being report. Now we have to decide with the input data coming from an internal data source, how securely and with compliance is being mapped into the black box, along with the external data that our models themselves are capable of extracting. So it's mostly about permissions that we get through enterprise integrations and combine that and then create this process. You also ask one more question, the effort that goes into fine-tuning an agent from an industry vertical perspective. Say, are we having the most amount of data, or the orchestration done from a vaccine standpoint? Is it drugs? Is it diagnostics? Is it telehealth? Where is that really lies, right? That set of data is what we worked with several of our partners in the past, and we continue to update our own database with curated data sets too. But at the end of the day, it's always still a combination of these two. And so far with PNG, or be it with a healthcare company like Johnson & Johnson, we've not seen our models not able to handle them without having some form of scarcity in the data or having a gap in the data. So for any of those use cases. But yes, I hope that answers the question.
Let's
Vinitha, can I just...
I have a follow-up question, but I'll wait. I'll give the others opportunity.
I just jump on Ramila's question, because I think when I was hearing him, my head was going towards unit economics. I think you explained the process in detail, but like, let's take a step further. And your client is paying you. You have a slide with the pricing there. How many reports are generating? How much is costing you from beginning to end to get your client to a point where they're producing reports, and how does that make your business viable? Because I think part of what Ramila was referring to is that it feels like it's a lot of work to get a client set up and running to deliver a good quality report. And then one of the questions that come to my mind is like, how do you compete with something like Manus, for example, who's delivering reports at a cost of a few dollars per report, and that takes anywhere between 10 and 30 minutes to do something. You could feed documents, you could point it at data sources. So just trying to understand the unit economics here to understand your scalability potential.
Absolutely. Before I answer, just one clarification, Fabrizio, did you say something like Manus? I didn't get which platform.
Yeah, Manus AI, the Chinese agent.
Oh, Manus AI. Okay, Manus AI. Okay. Got it. Sorry, just clarifying. Yes, great question. So first of all, from the COGS standpoint, for the end-to-end report generation process that we have in place for these 7 layers, as just pointed out, the changes that we have to do between different use cases is less than 2% right now. That's what we have been doing. So you're giving me a use case related to, say, mRNA vaccines competitive landscape on one end. Then we have energy-based companies. Say Aramco wants to give us a use case related to what is the tariff impact on the geopolitical supply chain that we have. 2 extremes of these use cases. The amount of changes in these 7 stages is less than 5%, less than 2%. I wouldn't even say 5 is still a big bet. So from a COGS standpoint, for us right now to do the entire end-to-end process with our cloud optimization, we were at one point 2.5 years ago, we're at anywhere between $35 to $40 per report. Right now, we are at anywhere between 10 to 15, depending on how long, and more than anything, and I couldn't get to go there, we don't just stop with reports. We generate automated PowerPoint presentations. We generate automated one-pagers. No decision maker so far has ever wanted to go through an 80-page report. It's usually for the analysts in the team, anybody who's trying to dive deeper into those facts and figures. So when it comes to bundling all of these reports for one use case, it goes anywhere between $15 to $25. If it is just a report, say $15 per report. This is our current COGS. Now, when it comes comparing with models like Manus AI or any of these multi-LLM or chat-based platforms, the most important thing is that the final quality of the report is at the mercy of the person who's prompting the model and providing the input to the model and the query, the quality of the query that they are able to provide. Our reports are absolutely 100% air gapped from the queries and the information the users have to provide. Rather, it comes down to the quality of the requirements, maybe the data sets and all the important internal data that we are pulling from their internal CRM and the Google Drive processes. But despite that, the quality control that we have makes sure that the report generation process stays unaffected by all of these querying and prompting aspects. And of course, at the end of the day, when it comes to, do I want to spend, say, I don't know, 2 days being able to stitch all this context together, format them, use my brand colors, create a fantastic PowerPoint presentation, make that into another couple of days and reiterate from a manual work standpoint, and compared to the automation we do, obviously that gets reduced to, say, 5% of manual effort there. So yeah, I hope that
let's take the next question from Abhay, please.
Yes.
Hey, Vinitha, just a quick one, right? When we talk about new product innovation, new category creation, and stuff like that, right? For some of the clients that you spoke about in the CPG world, like a Henkel or a P&G, my assumption is that they would want in-depth analysis, and that again, basis my understanding, a secondary research will not really help them really crack the problem because they're looking at the end outcome, right? Which requires a lot of primary data sources as well, which could be through FSGs and so on, focus study groups and so on and so forth, right? How do you capture that kind of depth at this point in time? Because, for example, when I was at Lowe's, we were trying to do a research around utilization of graphene for home improvement products or intuitive surfaces for elderly care, right?
Yeah.
Now, we had to partner with someone like an American Association for Retired People and so on and so forth to do our analysis, but that, of course, is not statistically significant, right? So there's a lot of secondary and primary data, collation, and that's when you get to some kind of outcomes in terms of market sizing and so on and so forth, right? To really get to a place where you know that out of the 20 ideas that you have, probably 3 of them should be taken forward, and then you move into the IP stage. There are so many other examples that I've seen across my 10-15 years of corporate innovation journey where I've had these kind of issues. How do you solve for that?
Absolutely. And sorry, I was smiling, Abhay, because the moment you started explaining the use case, it felt like you've already seen what we worked with P&G. I can actually show you a report right now that we worked on graphene oxide and the 3 different buckets that we worked with them from an R&D standpoint. So I'll actually talk about it from 3 different aspects, right? You said primary and secondary research. With P&G, we are right now in three different departments. One is the R&D, and with R&D, they wanted to understand between laser, graphene materials, and sensory technologies, and fit to body. These were the 4, I should say, the buckets that we worked with, where they would, at that time when they came to us, were using a group of about 5 to 6 different PhD experts, and was actually trying to create their own set of insights. The innovation pipe, it's the TPT group that's at the beginning of the innovation pipeline. I want to know what's new. I can convert that into a feasible product and own the patent. What is the patentability, etc. Then the second group of people is oral care, which is primarily related to, again, from both an R&D standpoint, but also supply chain. And the third is the patent and compliance. Patent and compliance, very straightforward. I don't think I have to explain that very clearly. But with the combination of primary and secondary research data, first of all, one of our data partners with whom we work with for primary research data is Clarity. And we also have partnership with CleverX, which is a very important part of our data sets and the insights and the part of insights where it is being extracted from. So no doubt about that. Second of all, I think it goes down to the depthness with which, and I don't know at this point if I can even say this, and I'm thinking if there's any compliance related aspects. But initially, very long ago, maybe 3 years ago, when ChatGPT had just come into picture, we actually, our team, our internal team, created about 5 to 6 initial reports that we selected from the market strategy use cases, and we created a report just out of it, all the data just from ChatGPT and Perplexity and all of these other models, to compare with what our technology is competing with and benchmarking. When we actually gave the report to the users, which were even taken only from ChatGPT and Perplexity, and then the data that we have, they actually thought that the report that we provided was actually originally from GPT. The quality comes because not because of the data that is present, but I guarantee you right now that there are certain things from a prompt engineering standpoint and web query search standpoint that 99% of the population is not aware of on how to extract from even ChatGPT. My ChatGPT can do certain things that I've seen every single friend of mine think, how did you even make it do that? So that is our secret sauce. That depthness and strategy is our secret sauce, and I'm happy to share the reports that we did with PNG, because now it is not confidential anymore, to show you what it can do without even going into what ChatGPT is capable of doing. So yeah.
Just a quick follow-up on this. So are you saying that you can also get into primary research data from
Yes.
anthropological studies, etc. as well?
Absolutely, because we have primary research data partners, and if we need it, we go into it. Like you said, majority of them, sometimes depending on the use cases, don't go there at all. For example, for an M&A agent which is looking for, I want to match the list of sellers I have with the list of buyers on the other end, does not require really primary research data at that point. We sell that to Fulcrum Marketing, which is one of the largest marketing firm in the US right now, and that has nothing to do with primary data. So depending on the use case, we switch that data source as well.
So in that case, the 48 hours turnaround might be a challenge, I'm assuming. Or no?
Again, I would say if it's an existing set of primary research which is not related to a curated set of focus group that I currently want, that I want to do fresh, and I'm going to take this whole entire time to be able to do that, then yes. But we've really not had anybody so far from a use case standpoint tell us that, oh, this is a primary, I absolutely need you to give me the primary research first, and only then I'm going to dive into the others. Many times we've seen that happening in parallel, which is always a good advantage. But if it does absolutely require only primary research, then we do have to partner with our platform partners who can make primary research happen, and then it obviously takes its own time.
Got it. I have a lot more questions, but I'll probably take it offline with you. I mean, separately with you.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Abhay. We have a question from Vinitha.
Yes.
Yeah, Vinitha. So I saw somewhere on the slides you said 40% one-time projects. So is it because you are just starting, or is there any specific reason? Because I want to know what is your plan for scaling it, because one-time projects actually, again, more repeated work. So you said somewhere that 2% is the only additional effort you need to do in moving from one project to another. So 40% one-time project versus that. So I want to understand, how will you scale it?
Yes. So we started selling.
Sorry, just one more thing. Your private expert panel also I saw somewhere in your slides. So that also becomes part of it. Like, what is the plan to scale it? Because as Abhay also touched upon it, there are challenges. You're claiming for 48 hours, but then this having expert panel, I don't know if it is just to, like, it will add more confidence that there are experts, reviewing the report before sharing, which is good actually in a way. It will add more confidence, but it is a bottleneck also in terms of scaling. So what is your plan to handle? Yeah.
Absolutely. Great question. And I actually want to answer that with my everyday incident that happens in my life. So yes, we started selling about 8-9 months ago, or close to 10 months ago. And all of the one-time projects that we did were pilots that are currently that we are talking with them to be able to convert to annual contracts. And the last 90-day period that we had with the current administration definitely did not help. That definitely delayed things. But coming back to the question, when it comes to scaling, every single day of my life, the question that I have to deal with and the biggest challenge I have is, should I go to a VC, ask for $15 million to boil the ocean and literally go after every single industry vertical out there? Because the amount of efforts that we have to do in the product side is less than 2% between different verticals. That definitely does not convert to a commercial engine standpoint. From a commercial engine standpoint, we have to decide what are the first few verticals that we are going after. At the end of the day, we are a startup. I'm a founder who's trying to establish the utility of this in multiple different use cases. On the other hand, every single customer, I mean, I'm the person who handles all the sales in the company so far in the last 10 to 12 months. And most importantly, all these customers have come to us through our network and customer referrals and primarily just word of mouth. So what happens there is that why do we have a company like NVIDIA and Boeing in the pipeline, and we've also worked with P&G, is because the amount of effort that goes into the sales process in these type of referrals and word of mouth situations is actually very, very less. But that is not true with scaling. That is not true with wanting to acquire the first $5 million of customers within the same industry vertical. For that reason and that reason alone, we want to be able to focus just on healthcare and CPG companies and enterprises. And in fact, I had a slide that was just talking about the first 10 companies or the first 10 accounts that we wanted to start with. Yeah, so for the first 10 accounts and the first 10 1 million plus, sorry, 2 million plus worth of companies that we want to have in the revenue pipeline, this is the process that we would like to start, because currently we have anywhere between consulting firms till solution providers as our customers, which is very easy to convince, but we can't keep being always opportunistic. But the problem is that from a practical sense, even though the opportunistic revenue is something that's coming from an inbound standpoint, for an outbound, we want it to be very, very targeted, creating the first 10 customers in healthcare and CPG, trying to get introductions to them in enterprises, even forgetting the fact that TTOs and patent law firms and PEVC firms currently in our customer bucket could potentially be a great segment from a product market fit and need perspective, but not gonna do that. And the hardest challenge for me as a founder is saying no to customers who we know that we can serve, but I should not be serving at this stage. So from a scaling standpoint, we are only going after healthcare and CPG at this moment for this year, and have a target revenue of 1.25 to 1.5 million by end of this year, and then start going into scaling aspects. And that's where our fundraising efforts and the amount of money we want to use for different scaling and GTM and hiring comes into picture.
Let's take the question from Ramila. Vinitha?
Yes.
Yes. So I think it's great that what you're showing, right? So you talk about the product. I think focus about the product. I think I like to trust that what you said is true. I think I can believe that, but maybe the challenge maybe from a feedback point of view, really, all companies come and tell the same kind of story, right? I think what they don't tell us is really the difficulty in integrating to the business processes of different companies. And maybe that is something that I have not heard from all these McKinseys and every other companies, right? They really go into the product, go to the stack, because I think the competitive advantage is not going to be created there. The competitive advantage is in terms of scaling. How can you be nimble with the business processes? I think that is what I'd like to hear. I didn't hear that, but maybe if you can add something from your experience.
Yes. First of all, for a single enterprise customer, the sales cycle is anywhere, and this is ideal case scenario, between 7 to 8 months. and that is everything being super ideal. When we started selling to P&G first, even for the pilot use case, starting with convincing the decision makers, and they've said yes, then starts the procurement process, then starts the integration process, and then it keeps going on forever like that. The most important process for an enterprise integration being difficult and a very long sales cycle does not allow a startup to be, okay, I'm not going to make any revenue right now while the enterprise customers pipeline is going on, and I'm just going to sit here and burn the cash. The problem is exactly just that. Once you're a revenue making startup, then the question is, what is your month-to-month growth? What is your churn? When are you converting them into annual contracts? We've so far done a great job of converting pilot contracts into annual agreements. That's not been an issue. Problem comes into picture, or the biggest challenge that we are always trying to balance is, what are we doing with the monthly initial pilot projects, which sometimes is the scope in itself is just one time, like Nandita was mentioning, and balancing that with the enterprise sales cycle that we have to go through. That reason is the most important reason why we decided to stick with just the healthcare and CPG verticals and keep saying no to all the others. That might actually be a considerable amount of revenue for a startup, but not taking us in the right direction for scaling purposes. So that balancing act as a founder, saying no to a customer is the hardest thing that I do every day. But then now comes the plan that we have in place for hiring sales associates and anybody who can start replacing the work that I am doing in each and every single vertical, as opposed to saying that there's one person who's going to take over or three people who are going to take over every single enterprise account in every single industry verticals. I'm a founder. I know I can do it, but I don't want to be doing it. I should not be doing it. The same thing applies to the sales associates as well. So that balancing act is the most important thing for us right now, because we can't afford to just sit here and not make money through initial pilot projects or the actual scope in itself being a one-time project just because we're waiting on the enterprise sales cycle to end. So that's a balance we're constantly doing.
Yeah, just quickly, just as a feedback, right? So I think as much as you talk about the product, I think you're competitive because you're focusing on healthcare. I think you should focus also on your competitive advantage that you are trying to create with with focusing on an area that you will be able to crack faster than others.
Agreed.
I see there are some questions from Lokesh in the chat, so we can probably take them after this response, Vinitha.
Yes.
Lokesh?
Yeah. Hey, sorry, I didn't want to take up the airtime. A lot of questions already. But basically, just observe that the product roadmap really doesn't go beyond the Q2 2025. At least looking at this slide here, I was wondering, when you expand into other industries, I see only sales outreach actually, the horizontal customer segments ecosystem. I don't know what that means, but anyway, is there a reason for that? And the other question is, even as you focus on a single vertical, even as you say a lot of no's, your expert panel is probably the biggest bottleneck. How are you, like, what's the long-term plan? And is there a percentage of reports that go through the expert panel today, or all of them?
Yes, so I know somebody asked me this question. I missed to answer that. Sorry. Yes, so Lokesh, from the expert panel standpoint, the expert panel started only because we understood the customer sentiment. 6 months ago, P&G said, I want all my reports go through an expert panel. I want to understand what are all the different strategies that an experts would look at it and say, okay, I'm validating this, I'm looking at the data, it looks good, etc., etc., etc. The same people don't ask for it anymore. The trust in AI, as it increases, the shift towards reducing the expert panel is something that we are anticipating. But the other anticipation is also that, in fact, expert panel could also be our competitive differentiation for the last 2% of most important, strategic information and the validation that comes from them. Because right now with enterprises, even P&G, I think them being as conservative of a company as possible, the first thing they told us is, we don't even want to use AI. We want to use you just because we are trying to test out a few things, but we don't see this going anywhere. This is the first conversation I had with them. They are the same people who don't ask for the expert validation right now at all. So between scaling, can we scale something that will still have expert panels always present? I still think yes, we can. Will it be the same as not having an expert panel at all? Not so much. And going back to percentage, right now we are between 20-80, 20% wanting expert validation and 80% not worrying about it at all. And the major shift for this is because I couldn't show you this in the agent demo. One of the biggest features we have is explainability and transparency, be it with statistical confidence intervals, bias percentages, or error margins, or being able to show the input versus output mapping of why this data was suggested to you, what is the logic behind that, what is the mathematical graphical modeling analysis behind that. All those things sort of suppress the question. We provided this to P&G for the first few reports. The decision makers we worked with there, the director of design, looked at it, and then from the next time did not even question it. And then for public data sources, of course, needless to say, there are citations and quote and quotes where they can directly go and verify that. But we have increasingly seen users tell us sometimes even that I don't even want your proprietary data, data that's explainable. Yeah.
Vinith, so sorry to interrupt. I think
Yes.
I just give you a sort of a very straight feedback here. All that you said then, I think it should be part of your go-to-market, your client outreach. It's like, hey, we know these agents are, they can hallucinate, they have the risk of hallucination. There's all sorts of like challenges and the perception of risk. So what we do is we're going to put an expert to analyze your reports right at the beginning, do it for a few times. Most of our clients, after the second time, third time, they don't need it anymore. I think you should probably flip that and put it in your message, because it is a big question that is out there. Everybody who's looking at an AI agent is asking that question. So why not put it right up front, use that as an advantage, and to Lokesh's point, you're not going to scale that. You're not going to be able to scale. The moment you have 1,000 clients, you're not going to have a panel of experts that can do with all of that. So if you make it part of your onboarding, after the first month, after the first quarter, you take off the stabilizers and you can run.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you.
That's very important.
That's
I have a quick follow-up. Pankaj, if you don't mind, I have a quick follow-up question. This question is actually from one of my friends who is actually watching this live. I think he just messaged me directly. The question is, have there been any reports which your clients have sent back to you because they didn't trust it? They asked for corrections, and how did you go about it?
Yes, initially, maybe 2 years ago, when we didn't have the level of accuracy layers that we have right now.
So not in the recent times. Sorry, 2 years back. History. Don't worry about it.
Sorry, not in the recent times, but it did happen because we didn't start to be perfect from the first report. Of course,
Of course, you had to do a lot of, put a lot of layers to ensure, do all the validations, reduce hallucination. That's all totally understood. But in the recent times, you haven't had faced that issue. And the second question is, how does the AI decide, not to use stale data? Rely only on recent data, fresh data. How do you do that, if at all you do that?
Yes, great. I'll again use an example, Lokesh. Great question, because this is where I think the moment we start getting into this place is where all the questions related to trust and expert panel, all of that started vanishing and disappearing, because this question you asked is more important than even that from my practical experience. I'm just going to take an example. Let's say we're talking about a CAGR of a wearable industry market. We have public data from Gartner. We have a public data from CB Insights. We have public data from Fortune Business. This is still public data. Then we have data from Wikipedias of the world, blogs of the world, company websites of the world. which is of course not as trustworthy. Then we have data from statistical peer-reviewed journals and articles that are published in Springer and Nature of the world, or anything related to, say, market analysis and industry. These are three different buckets of trustworthiness. The last one is the highest trust you can place. First one with Gartner report may be medium because they are conflicting themselves even all the time. Then there is in between, which is Wikipedia and WikiLeaks, 0, almost the lowest confidence interval that you can get. That is really where the report shines the most, because we have set up the algorithm to understand which data source can be provided what confidence interval. And we have classified that into thousands and thousands and thousands of indexing that happens at the back end, confidence intervals being applied to each of these different buckets. And this actually shows in the final strategy, or the final sentence where the CAGR is published, as an average, and the logic that went behind why or how did this 125% come here. What is the mathematical calculation behind that? Where did the raw data parameters that was originally for this 125 taken from? What is the confidence interval percentage on that? So you can imagine this as a huge set of mathematical modeling and strategic aspects that the model in itself takes into consideration based on the orchestration and the prompt engineering and the fine-tuning that we have done in the past.
Vinitha?
Is it fair to say that this is, in fact, your IP, that perhaps ChatGPT doesn't?
You nailed it absolutely right with that question, because I don't get asked the question anymore on about, tell me what happens with the expert validation layer, or tell me what happens if somebody else could actually replicate this. Because the most important question is users don't worry about that. Users are worrying about they don't even know why should they trust the data from Gartner versus McKinsey. Why are they both conflicting? They don't know that. But if you ask a Gartner consultant and a McKinsey consultant, they'll only talk about their background, brand power, or their own in-depth IP analysis. They're never going to tell you with transparency and traceability, where did that data come from? What did we do to arrive at that data? So that's what really changed our game the moment users started seeing that in the report. So yes.
Let's take a question from Nandita.
So Vinitha, you're using like all these data sources which you mentioned, and then apart from it, you're taking some company specific data also for the customer you're working with, right? For the client you're working with, right? And correct?
What is company specific data?
So that's what I wanted to ask you, that because somewhere earlier you mentioned that there are some documents in any format, they can be from company, so they can upload.
That is
what kind of data is that?
Yeah, that is
company
no,
product
that is
related.
No, that is the user's that is user's preference. For example, they had an initial analysis and strategy that they had already created in a Word document. I'll take company due diligence as an example, a pitch deck that they want to attach. Data rooms, CRMs, everything is internal data.
And apart from some algorithms, I think you're using OpenAIs and other LLMs also, right?
Yes, that's right.
So actually here, I really want to ask you how you're managing the security aspect and the data privacy, because company strategy, company product related, details going out on OpenAI. I mean, because why I'm asking, because we also are concerned. We never use, so there is a separate instance for OpenAI created for the firm, because we cannot, so what is your, like, how you're managing that very important aspect? Otherwise, company strategy going out, and then, so are you, I mean, what is your plan to basically address that concern so that more and more firms will open? Actually, that's why I'm asking. I'm suggesting.
Absolutely. No, that's a question.
And address this concern, you can increase your customer base like anything.
Yes, so especially with the enterprises, be it any platform, security and compliance is the most important layer. First of all, in the layers of report that we have access to, and again goes back to a question that I was just in a panel as a speaker last week, and somebody asked me, what does it mean when we give permission to OpenAI to use our data for fine tuning versus we don't? What really happens? They were a panel of attorneys, and they were asking me this same question. It's attorney-client privilege. How am I supposed to give you the data and be very confident that this is not going to be leaked, because we literally create patent reports and we draft an entire patent at the end of the day. The biggest analogy that I can provide is just, and I don't know how many of them really know this, within a particular model, and I'm not even going into agents, within a particular model, just like how we all have different sizes of memories as neurons, different neurons and the network of neurons create short-term and long-term memories. There are different places within a model to be able to orchestrate and control that too. So when we say security and compliance, first important part is, what are we able to control the model, and how are we able to control the model to not use this data for step 1, step 2, step 3, and step 4 only, and not go beyond that. The model is supposed to have 100% control on what can I use it for, what can I not use it for. The other security and compliance layers, which comes only as a part of any SaaS platform, from data leakage, data transparency, having an SSO, all these aspects are already covered into picture. That's never a problem. And the question always is, how do I make sure your model is not going to take up all the data that I am providing and use it as an input, or maybe a competitor advantage for another competitor that might be using your platform for a similar strategy? What is the guarantee that your platform's not going to do that? That is where the memories come into picture. And I don't know, from a technical standpoint, the layers that we have incorporated from compliance and security is the most important. And then the compliance and security layer also sort of has a downpour into the bias tone and the bias and tone control layers, where it is not just even leaking, but not even biasing its strategy based on what it just learned maybe 2 minutes ago. That is a control that we have to add in reinforcement aspects and continue to do that so far, and we've always been doing that. But that is the best analogy I could say I can give, at least.
Okay. Any last comment? Any last question?
I think I saw some in the chat.
Okay. And I do understand that we are sitting in front of experts today, Vinitha. So it's also a good opportunity for you to get a quick guidance, quick recommendation from the experts. And that recommendation could be on your GTM, on differentiation, on scalability, on channel strategy. So one quick sort of piece of advice to Vinitha from all the panelists. It has to be damn good.
They're on the hot seat now.
Shall we start with, Fabrizio, please?
Yeah, come in. So Vinith, I don't know if you've got anything specific that you'd like to focus on, but from everything I've heard and from what I've seen with other businesses that are out there, it's a very crowded market because everybody's trying to build something with AI. There's no way you can not explore the big models that are out there. You know, you're gonna spend all your life trying to build something to compete with them. I think your approach of focusing on one vertical, I would definitely think about going deep into one vertical and have the golden product in that segment, because that helps you earn the trust of others. What transpired to me is that you're focusing on that enterprise level. You focus on businesses that take their reports, their research very, very seriously. So you're going to have to be at the sort of 99%. They're not going to be happy with 90%. They're not going to be happy with 85%. So really sort of try and go work with them. I think it's great that you've got some really good names to co-create with. And I think it would be really helpful to focus and get that niche of the market as a strategy, so that you're not competing with the Manus, you're not competing with the ChatGPT, you're not competing with the Gemini deep research, because that battle is going to be really hard to take up. So yeah, that would be my advice for you. And well done for getting this far. Well done for all the 5 years that you put sweat and tears in that. I understand there's probably a lot of stuff you had to throw away because it keeps evolving very fast. But there's definitely a lot of knowledge that you seem to be capturing in an IP that's going to be very valuable. Well done.
Thank you, Fabrizio.
Yes. That's fantastic. Thanks a lot. Lokesh, may I request you to go next, please?
I guess, Vinitha, even as you focus within CPG, focus CPG and healthcare, I wonder if you also should add function level focus. It looks like you're working still. It seems to me like it's still a very broad space
Great.
within these companies. If it's easy, I feel that it is easy to build along with vertical within that some function product that seems to be very broad to me.
Okay.
I guess I don't really, you and I connected, so I don't really have any feedback.
I know.
Yeah.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Lokesh. Yeah, I mean,
Thank
you've
you.
always got it, I think, from the first. So that's why I felt like even the questions you asked were on point. So yeah, thank you.
Fantastic. Thanks a lot, Lokesh.
Thank you.
May I request Nandita to go next, please?
Sure. So, Vinitha, first of all, I loved your confidence, as I, mentioned in the comment also on LinkedIn. So it takes a lot of guts. So kudos at this young age. I think you are able to come at this point. It's worth the appreciation. Very nice. There is only one thing here I would really like to tell you, that which is, about the security and the concern, because we meet customers every now and then, and we are working with the SLM and LLM based products, and the very first feedback we get, even for just customer data, they are not comfortable in sharing to the OpenAI and cloud based things. And now when we are talking about company strategy, it is a very important piece of data. So in my view, what you should do is take small language models, and you already have gold mine of data. You already have curated all those data sources. Just fine tune smaller models, because use cases are not that complicated, as you're saying already. So fine tune models and deploy them on prem, and I believe, in my personal experience, your customer base will really increase, because more and more customers you will meet, you will hear that no, they're not comfortable sharing data for cloud APIs. So this would be one point I would suggest.
Absolutely. I mean, it's good to address it before they even ask me, right? So that's a very fantastic point. Yeah. Thank
This
you
is
for
what
that.
we are asked all the time, so I'm
Yeah.
telling you something which is what I hear every day. So, and we are all working towards making that more secure.
Yes,
Okay,
agreed.
all the best. I'm
Thanks.
sure
Thank
you'll do
you.
good.
Yeah, thank you, Nandita. Yeah, it was great talking
Thanks a
to you.
lot, Nandita. Again, I think it was a fantastic session. Thanks to all the panelists for all your questions, comments, feedback, guidance. I think it is all fantastic. Vinitha, you have done a fantastic job.
Thank you.
Again,
Thank you.
as I was saying in the beginning, I was more nervous, but I think you did extremely well. So,
Thank you for taking my nervousness away, Pankaj. You were more nervous, so you just took it away from me, I guess.
So
Yeah.
let's keep doing these, and let's keep getting roasted. Let's keep learning,
Yes.
right? That's the
Yeah,
whole idea.
absolutely.
Thank
Yeah.
you, everybody.
Thank
All
you,
right.
everyone.
Thank
Nice
you
meeting
so
you all.
much.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you so
Bye.
much. Yeah. See you. Bye bye.
Thank you all. Bye-bye.